Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are making some clay earrings. So I'm starting off by using the Sculpey 3 clay. I originally used the pink version of the clay, but I found that the white was much easier when painting afterwards. So to start off, I am just warming up the clay between my hands so that it is easier to mold. Next, I am using a paintbrush to roll out the clay very unsuccessfully at first. I know they sell rollers at like Michael's to be able to help you with this, but this is just what I had on hand and it worked in the end to get it the way that I wanted it to look. Next, I'm using these cookie cutter shapes that I got from Amazon to cut out these shapes for my earrings. You could always hand make these shapes, but I found that this was a lot easier in keeping the shapes consistent with how much of the clay that I was actually using. One thing to keep in mind if you're doing this on any surface really is to watch out for all the dust particles that can get on the mat. I neglected to do this and you can see a little bit of the dust particles that were left on the clay, and it is very annoying to try and get them off afterwards. Next, I'm taking these pins that I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but I got them in the earring section at Michael's, and I'm cutting them down to a size that I thought would be best for the earrings. I used the first one as a guide to cut the rest before sticking them in. I'm also using a pair of pliers that I found around the house. I'm not sure what the difference between jewelry pliers and these pliers are, but these worked just fine.
The colors fade away, words are flowing out. Yeah, I'm blinded by your smile in an endless night, on an empty space. I still gaze you there, so let the light shine.
After I was done sticking all the pins in, I placed them on a parchment-lined baking sheet and stuck them in the oven at 275 for 15 minutes. These were the instructions that were on my package of clay, but I actually had to leave them in a little bit longer because they were quite thick. I just suggest keeping an eye on them if you do have to leave them in past the time so that they don't burn. So this is where the fun really starts and where all my mistakes are actually made. So I started painting them with gouache, which is a big no-no, and if you've ever worked with gouache, you know that the thicker the layer is, the easier it is to crack. And I knew that, so I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I think I was just too excited, and that's exactly what happened. All the pieces ended up being unusable, and I had to start from scratch. The second time around, I used acrylic paint, and it worked perfectly. The process was pretty much the exact same. I decided to leave the clip in because I wanted to say not everything is smooth sailing, especially if it's your first time trying something, and I'm really glad I stuck with it despite being really frustrated. After I was done painting for the second time, it was time to resin and cure them. So this is the UV light I used. It was part of a gel kit that my mom had, and for the life of me I cannot find the actual resin that I used. It disappeared somewhere after I made the earrings and I couldn't even find it on the Michaels website. But it is basically like the picture on the right. I mixed equal parts of A and B and then used an old paintbrush to brush it on. Please make sure to correctly follow the instructions in the package of whatever resin you're using and wear the right protective gear. This stuff is no joke and can smell pretty strongly, so just be sure that you're taking the right steps. Another tip I do have is to make sure you get the resin pretty much all over where you put the earring pin into. It'll just add another sealant to make sure that it doesn't slip or come out. After they were done curing, I went ahead and grabbed pliers to put the earring backs into the pins that we had previously slipped into the clay. My only tip for this is make sure that you're actually paying attention so that you don't put the earring backs on the wrong way like I did and I didn't realize till later. After I was done, I grabbed these backing cards that I designed on Procreate and a roll of washi tape. I placed the card over the hole in the middle of the tape and just pushed the earrings through. I'm using an 80-pound cardstock for these, so I really didn't need to use too much pressure, but basically I did that for the rest of the earrings, and this is how they all turned out. I hope this video was helpful in some way. Feel free to tag me in any of your creations that you make, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!